want to get together and talk about storm spotter training today. Usually by the time we get to Columbus Day or Halloween, it's already well into spotter training planning season, and certainly we're well into that now. Most of you are probably aware we made some significant changes in how we did things this past year, 2012, and kind of wanted to review how that went a little bit and then talk about what we're going to do this coming year. We're on the phone here. You can ask questions. It'd be best if you use the little dashboard, probably on the right side of your screen, the GoToMeeting interface there. There's a box for questions and answers, so if you have a question, you can type it there. I'll also stop several times during the webinar here, and you can ask questions over the phone. So hopefully that'll work out fairly well. So before we get started in looking at 2013, let's look a little bit at what we did in 2012 and review how things went this past year. The big change that we made in 2012 was to switch to a more of a regional training concept when it comes to our live training classes. So we divided our county warning area. We have 56 counties we're responsible for. We divided that warning area up into 12 pieces. Not based on the Hunger Games necessarily. There are 12 districts, but no, just kidding. So we have 12 districts that we're using. We're going to stick with those same ones this year. These are not set in concrete or stone or anything. There's nothing to say that we can't change these if we need to, but this is what we're working with so far, and this is what we're planning to use this coming year. We emphasized webinars a little bit more than we have, or a lot more than we have in 2012. Webinars were pretty successful. Are they perfect? Are they just like being there? No, but I think for the vast majority of our training purposes and the people who attend spotter training, it gets most of what they need, hopefully. We'd still much rather come out and visit in person, but I think the webinars were a good second choice as far as that goes. Another thing that was very different that we did in 2012 was kind of almost deputizing local emergency managers and spotter training or spotter group leaders to go out and do your own training. So we actually provided materials to anyone who was interested. That included a PowerPoint presentation with detailed speaker notes for each slide, videos to go with that, and a whole package of training materials. So in a sense, it's a train-the-trainer situation where we provide the information to you if you're interested, and then you can go out and train spotters on your schedule and on their schedule. We'll talk more about how that went here in a little bit. The Weather Service also rolled out these modules, these online training modules in late 2011, I think, or certainly 2012 was the first year they were fully in existence for the whole year. And these worked out pretty well. I do get emails when people in our area complete those. I haven't done a good job of forwarding those names of people to the local emergency manager and spotter groups. One of the questions that people get asked when they complete these modules is, do you want to officially be a National Weather Service spotter or a spotter for your community? And if they say yes, then I get their contact information. So I'll need to go through that and make sure that you have that here quickly. I haven't neglected to do that so far. But again, these modules are a very good basic introduction to spotter training. This is not really enough in most cases for some of our more active spotter groups or more organized spotter groups. I think it's a fairly good introduction to what spotting is about. So those have been used quite a bit. We've also made use of YouTube. The Weather Service has a YouTube channel, and we have a small part of that YouTube channel for our office. The way it's working right now, it's extremely cumbersome to get any material up there. I kind of had to jump through some hoops to get up there what we have up there now, but hopefully we're getting approval very soon for us to have complete control over that YouTube channel, which means it'll be very easy for us to populate that or to publish information more quickly and more easily. Right now, if I want to publish anything, I have to send it to the national headquarters, and it goes through that process. But anyway, we hope to be using this more, and we'll talk about that. Also, for a while, we've had our own online training modules. These are essentially different chapters based on different weather, different parts of a storm spotter training session, storm features, storm type, safety. These are old. We need to update these, and we're working on doing that right now, and we're also working on enhancing what's up there. But that's another resource that's been out there this year. Now, we haven't been out. We did 13 storm spotter training classes in 2012 versus the 40 to 50 that we've done in some previous years. But this does not mean that we haven't been doing other types of outreach and education. Outreach from the office can take on many different shapes and forms, and one of the busiest parts of our outreach program here at the Weather Service in Norman is Storm Ready. We have one of the most active Storm Ready programs in the United States, and it keeps growing month by month, it seems like. In 2012, we recognized 6 new Storm Ready communities. Now, the goal for a Weather Service office around the country is to get one of those in a year. So we have 6, and we also had 28 renewals. So in Storm Ready, you have to renew every 3 years. And the renewals and the new communities required us to do site visits and ceremonies in 25, or actually it's over 25 different locations. I say have to or required us like it's a problem. It's not. This is another opportunity for us to get out into the communities and see people and talk about the work that you do in emergency management, recognizing the partnership that we have. So Storm Ready is an important part of what we do. It's not training storm spotters, it's not talking to the storm spotters, but again, it is the Weather Service getting out into the communities, and that's just another way that we do that. And just like any other year, we've been involved in lots of other things. This is a partial list of some of the other local outreach that we've done in 2012. We participated in several exercises, dam break exercises, played a key role in a full-scale hospital exercise, Web EOC. We were fortunate enough to attend several emergency management workshops, Southwest Oklahoma, Southeast Oklahoma. Got invited to come to the Intertribal EM Summit down in Thackerville earlier this year, Oklahoma Emergency Management Conference, numerous talks, presentations, OK First courses, weather radio programming. So again, we may not be visiting communities as often as we have in the past for spotter training, but we still are trying to get out into the communities as much as we can. And I want this list to be 10 times this long. This is not even everything that we did, and this is not everything that we want to do. So we want to make this part of our local outreach grow in the coming months and years. Anybody have any questions so far about just the basics? We haven't really gotten into the meat of anything yet, but I'll just stop and pause here for 1 second, see if anybody has any questions. All right, let's push on. Let's look at the live classes that we did in 2012. As I said earlier, we divided our county warning area up into 12 districts, and this is based on a variety of factors, but the 12 districts, this is what we came up with, and the goal was to provide one live spotter training session, a regional spotter training session in each of these 12 districts, and that's how we started the 2012 spotter training season, and that's kind of how it worked out. The goal of these live training sessions was to supplement what we're doing online and in webinars. In the past, live training was it. If we did a live spotter training session in Stillwater in March and you missed that live training session, then you were pretty much out of luck until it came around to next year, because we didn't really have much online. We didn't have any YouTube videos. We weren't doing webinars, so you were pretty much out of luck. So the emphasis has shifted more toward doing a lot of online and webinar-based training. The live training sessions are one way that we can supplement that online training. So again, our initial goal was to do 10 to 12 regional sessions February through March, and we actually had different options available. A lot of people stuck with just your traditional weekday evening 2-hour class. That's traditionally what we've done. There are some groups, the Wichita Falls group, for example, we always do a Saturday morning class in February, so there was that option as well. And then there was another option we wanted to throw out there. We've experimented with this in a couple of places, but just make it either an all-day or a half-day spotter training / severe weather awareness safety fair kind of a weather safety fair in the community. So, teaming up with partners in amateur radio, doing a weather radio programming, there's all kinds of ways to do this. We actually had one of these that we did this past year that worked out fairly well. So we picked a spot in each district to do the spotter training, and that's the name of the towns, the cities, where we ended up doing the training. The 13th spotter training session was the severe weather workshop. That's been a traditional thing that we've done every year. I don't know what's going to happen to that in 2013, but that one kind of got stuck in there as well. How did we determine the locations for those spotter talks? Well, this is where the concept of a district coordinator comes in, and one of the things that we did is try to find someone in each district that could kind of poll the emergency managers and spotter groups, or try to work with them and come up with the best location and the best date for when to have the training. And in some cases this went very, very smoothly. I think it went smoothly in all cases, but going forward, we'll have to see how this concept is going to work, and I think we'll talk more about that here in a later slide. So what happened with the 2012 live training? Well, we had 13 classes. The total attendance at those 13 classes was about 1,150 people. Out of our 56 county warning area, we had 48 of those counties represented, which is great. And live training made up just over half of our total training that we did last year. So in the past, it wasn't unusual to have in a whole training season, mid-January through the end of March, all of our live classes would have about 1,800 to 2,000 people on average. So we got 1,150 with the live training in 2012, which is not surprising. You do fewer classes, you're going to get fewer people attending. Here is a district-by-district breakdown of the total live spotter class training attendance in 2012. This is people that attended live sessions only. This doesn't account for anything else. And you can see a wide variety of numbers there. 129 in the Stillwater area, higher numbers, lower numbers scattered around the map. There's an asterisk beside the 60 up in the north central Oklahoma. I'll explain why that's not a totally accurate representation of all the training all the live training that was done in that area this past year. But in some areas the attendance was just spectacular. Other places the attendance was lower. There's a variety of reasons for that. I'm not criticizing or knocking any of that. I'm just saying that this is kind of the variability that we saw in the attendance at the live classes. Most of the training that we did, live training wise, stuck to that traditional Monday, Tuesday, Thursday evening format. Start a class at 6, 6:37, go 2.5 hours, and that's kind of the traditional format that we've done. With the Wichita Falls, North Texas group, we almost always do a Saturday morning session, but we tried some new things. Over in Seminole, we did a Saturday afternoon session. In Durant, Bryan County, we also did a Saturday afternoon. And then the South Central Oklahoma area, we did an all-day Saturday event that worked out very, very well, I think. So this is kind of the variety of formats or options that are out there. We had a good turnout and a good experience in Ardmore. This is on February 25th, and we kind of did an all-day event where we had different partners. Be sure and mute your phones if you're out there. I think it's *6 or just hit mute on your phone so we don't get the background noise. This February 25th event, we had partnerships, and this worked because of the work of Paul and Amber and Tracy and Garvin County, Murray County, everybody working together, and we had people from the health department, 911, the Mesonet was there, and this was just a kind of an all-day event where we had spotter training in the afternoon and we had all kinds of things going on. So this works in some communities. It may not work in your location, but this is an option. This is something we can do, and we can reach a lot of people. Spotter training is obviously very important, but to me just as important, and in some cases more important, is the ability to talk to just normal people. Be sure and mute your phones out there if you don't mind. You don't want to have any side conversations going on, so be sure and mute your phone. being able to reach out and talk to a variety of groups of people, talk about weather preparedness, weather radio, things like that. In a lot of cases, the same storm spotters come to the classes every single year, and they're very familiar with the presentations and know what we're talking about. But at an event like this, we may get to talk to people that would never come to a spotter training session, that come to hear about weather safety or to get their weather radio program. So there's some real benefits of this. And we'll probably be doing something very similar to this in Ardmore this coming year, or in South Central Oklahoma. Were there any questions or anything before we move on to the webinar section? Somebody's got their phone off of mute and we can hear your conversation, so please be sure your phone is on mute. *6 or just hit mute on your phone, please. Thank you. All right, let's move on to webinars. Webinars took a bigger role in 2012. This is my least favorite part, or least favorite aspect of a webinar. Instead of getting to look at all your smiling faces out there, this is my view when I'm doing a webinar. That's my desk and my monitor, and it's kind of lonely and it's not nearly as exciting, but it is a good way to reach a lot of people. In 2012, we did 4 webinars. February 7th, February 16th. We also bled over into April. We usually don't do spotter training in April, and we never do spotter training in October. So we had a lot of people participating in our webinar on October 2nd. You can see the numbers of attendees there. 144 in February. We reached a peak in April. 604 people participated in that webinar. That's a lot of people, and there's a big chunk of those in that webinar attendance that weren't even in Oklahoma or Texas, people that were just out there in different areas. So in the 4 webinars that we did, we had a total attendance of 1,450 people. 80% of those people were from our county warning area. So that means 20% of them were from other places. We actually had 28 different states represented attending our webinars. We had 2 Canadian provinces represented. 46 of our 56 counties participated, and that made up just under 50% of our total training. The first webinar that we did, we had lots of people getting online, and we had people from all over the country. You put this on the web page and on social media, and it's very difficult to limit who attends. And personally, I don't care who attends, but we need to make it very clear to the webinar attendees that this is for Oklahoma and Texas. I actually had people in the first webinar complaining about, how come you're not talking about water spouts, or why are you showing supercells? We don't get storms like that in Michigan and things like that. So we made it very clear in the subsequent webinars that this is our target audience. We're talking to Oklahoma and North Texas. You're welcome to listen in and participate, but keep in mind we're not talking about Maine or Oregon or areas like that. So when you add together the live training sessions, the webinars, and then the local training sessions that were done by local emergency managers, this is the attendance by district. So we had fairly good attendance in all the districts based on the combination of all those different types of participation. Now, in some districts, some groups of counties in our county warning area, the webinar was made up the bulk of the training for that area. This is the percentage of total training that webinars were. So webinars, for example, Northwest Oklahoma, the Woodward area, 20% of the people who were trained as spotters in 2012 were trained on webinars. In Central Oklahoma, around Canadian County, Kingfisher, that area, 87% of the people that got trained through webinars. So in different areas, the webinars were much, much more important for the total number of spotters trained than they were in other areas. A very low number of people attended Storm Spotter training, the live session, around Grady, Canadian Caddo, Blaine, and Kingfisher counties, but we made up for that number in a large part or thanks to the webinar. So again, this is just an interesting statistic to show you what percentage of the people in your area attended live training versus attending the webinar. One of the things that made it so successful is not just individual people sitting on their couch and watching the webinar, but it's when an emergency manager or a storm spotter group hosted the webinar for multiple people. And this is why the numbers were so high. We had Many cases like the picture you see here, this is from Brandon at Del City Fire Department. And this is just like you would attend a normal storm spotter training session in the evening, except there's nobody speaking up at the front of the room. There are speakers that are broadcasting the audio. You can see the slides up there. There are ways for the audience to interact. So we had, you know, however many people that is in the room that participated in that webinar. And this is a partial list. I know I missed someone on here, but these are some of the groups and organizations and jurisdictions that actually hosted a webinar where they brought people into a central location and had multiple people there. We had small towns, large towns, we had universities, we had health departments, we had the Oklahoma Medical Reserve Corps, the FAA participated and hosted a webinar. So there's a lot of different groups represented here. There was one case, Beckham County, for example. On one of the webinars, we had a large group of people in Elk City, and we had a large group of people in Sayre attending the same webinar. Maybe the Sayre people couldn't have gone to Clinton for the spotter training, but they can get to the webinar and get the same, you know, the same basic information. When you decide to host a webinar, we do provide you with some assistance. We try to give you as much guidance as we can on how to set things up, what to do with the sound, what to do with how to set it up so everybody can see and hear the presentation. So we kind of put together a frequently asked questions or a guide to help you schedule and hold a webinar. We provide you with sign-in sheets. One of the things that we're trying to do and we need to do is track much more closely who's attending the spotter training and particularly where they're from. So if you're going to host a webinar this coming year, I'm going to bug you to give me the number of people that attended and where they were from. So if you host a webinar in, I don't know, if you host a webinar in Norman this year, I'm going to be asking you how many people attended and what counties were they from. So that sign-in sheet that you see there on the right is something I'll provide to you, and you can get people to fill that out and then send it back to me. In Oklahoma, we also still provide 2 hours of CLEAT credit for the law enforcement officers. Right now we haven't worked out a way to be able to offer this credit to individual officers who are sitting on the couch and attending the training. We're working on ways around that, but what we are doing is if a law enforcement officer attends a live class and there's an emergency manager or an official there that can certify their attendance at the class, then we can provide the CLEAT credit for that. And so I'll also provide this accredited training course roster from CLEAT to you if you're going to host a webinar, and you can work with me to certify that these people actually attended and completed the training, then we can offer them the credit for that. And that's another way to get people to attend the training. Those law enforcement officers are always looking for CLEAT hours. We've never done certificates before, but we've started doing certificates. So if you participate in the webinar as an individual or as a group, following the webinar, I will send you what I've called a certificate of participation. It's not a certificate of completion. There's no way for me to know for sure how engaged you were in the webinar. You can log into it and take a nap for 2 hours, I guess. Their GoToMeeting does give me some statistics, and I can tell how attentive people were and if they were off checking email during the webinar and stuff, and I don't worry too much about that. But I do use those statistics to try to narrow down who might get these certificates. If I can see from the spreadsheet that I get after the webinar that someone logged in and was logged in for 2 minutes and then got off, they're not going to get a certificate of participation. So they have to actually be engaged a little bit in the webinar itself. Another thing that I've done, I really just started this with the fall webinar, the one in October, is I provided the links and links to a lot of the material that we covered in the webinar on a web page. And we're going to continue to do this. So when we do our next webinar coming up in 2013, there'll be a special web page devoted to that webinar where I can provide special links to all the things that we talked about. And this was very popular. People really like this. And we also provide the slides that we used in the webinar. So that's another big request that we always get. All right, I'll keep pressing on here. Let me check real quick and see if we have any questions that have popped up in the chat window here. Don't see any, so let's keep moving on. So the local training that I talked about, we actually, like I said, I used the word kind of jokingly, deputize some of our emergency managers to go out and act on our behalf and train their local spotters. And like I said before, we provided each of those people that expressed interest with a DVD. And the DVD had the PowerPoint presentation in several different formats. Each PowerPoint slide, as you can see here on the screen, we had speaker notes. So some of our spotter training slides are just a picture. So sometimes you might not feel comfortable in doing the presentation because it doesn't have all the words on the screen. But we provided you with the speaker notes so you can know that if I was doing the presentation, these are some of the key points I would hit on when I was doing that, and the videos that go with the presentation. What we encourage people that did this, the local training I call it, is to feel free to enhance this with your local information. If you got pictures of a storm that happened last year in your local area that you want to use to demonstrate, you can do that, or you can have a local video that you use. We just ask that you stay kind of within the basic guidelines or the basic outline of the training that we've presented to kind of be sure that we're all on the same page. Now, if you remember the map I showed earlier and the 60 spotters that attended a local training session, well, that number had a star beside it because in actuality it was much more than that. We added 227 more people that attended spotter training in that area because of this local training. And thanks to Mike Konigsberg and Lloyd Brown in Enid and in Perry, respectively, they went out and did training for us on our behalf, and they were able to train 227 people, and we never showed up in the county. So, and Mike actually went to some very small communities and very small fire departments in Garber and Wacomas and Fairmont and Covington and Cherokee and Pond Creek and places that we probably would not go to to do a training session, an annual live storm spotter training session. But thanks to them having these materials, they were able to gather large audiences together and do this training. In Lloyd's case, I think that 54 was from Perry, where there was 54 people that got together and did that training there. So that seemed to work out fairly well. This is not for everybody. You don't have to do this, but if you're interested and want to give it a shot, travel to a volunteer fire department monthly meeting or something and do the training, or however you want to do it, let me know, contact me, and we'll get you set up with that. And again, it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to do it or can do it, but if you want to, we'll help you do it. Any questions about anything that we did in 2012 before we move to the next year? Okay, we'll keep moving. For 2013, we're not really planning on making any substantial changes to how we're doing things. For the live training classes, we do want to maintain what we did last year, this past year, and have one live training class in each district. We're leaving it up to the individual districts to coordinate on the location, where you want to have it, and working together to kind of maximize the attendance. This is kind of still informal, and if your name is in big bold letters there, you indicated to me that you were interested in helping to coordinate what was going on in your district as far as spotter training goes. If your name is in the smaller type there, those people did this for us last year. They helped with this last year. I'm not throwing you under the bus and volunteering you to do it this year. I just wanted you to know that the training that we did this past year was coordinated amongst a group of people, and these are the people that kind of helped us do that. There are different ways to approach the district training concept. In some locations, in some places, it may make the most sense to have the live training session the same place every year. It may be that this one community has a large venue that was capable of holding 100 or 200 people if you truly do get people attending from the different counties, and that's fine. In other cases, it may make sense to move it around. So if you had it in, this is just an example, if you had it in Clinton in 2012, maybe you want to have it in somewhere else in 2013. Again, that's an example. And I kind of leave it up to the people in the district to figure out what you want to do or how you want to do it. Now, I'm happy to get involved or to help, decide things or help you, figure out options or things like that. But the goal in this is for each district to have someone who takes charge, who helps to coordinate the location, the time, the format, and then submits one single request to us. So we're going to be looking for one request from each district for the training, and that seemed to work okay last year, and hopefully it'll work out. So if you're a coordinator in one of those districts, or you're an emergency manager or a spotter group leader in a district, somehow or another you need to get together with the other folks in your area and determine where you want to have it. Like I said, in some cases it makes sense to maybe do it where you did it last year. In other cases, maybe you want to move it to a different location. Some of you have already gotten it, but I'm going to send out a link to a survey, and this survey will be how you submit your formal request to do spotter training in this coming year. It will ask you where you want to have it. It'll ask you the format. Do you want to just do the usual evening session, or do you want to do a full day, all-out severe weather disaster preparedness day like we did in Ardmore this past year? That's up to you, and again, that's what the district will decide on. And then it comes to picking dates and times, and this is a screen capture from the survey that will get the coordinators or someone from each district to submit to us. It lists all the available dates and then ask you to pick the time that you would like the training to start. And we also ask you if you have an order of preference to list that. Now, some people have a date set in their minds, and that's the only date that will work, and that's fine. You could submit that to us, but it's going to work out in some cases where it'll be better if you submit multiple dates to us. And if you submit multiple dates, give us the order of preference. There's a box there where you can include that. We're going to do at least as many webinars as we did in 2012 next year. So I'm planning at least 4 webinars in that February, March, April time frame, maybe more than that. I hope to offer during that same time frame at least one, quote, advanced training session. Every year we get requests for advanced training sessions, and that means different things to different people. Honestly, in some cases it means we want something different. Don't come here and show us the same thing you did last year. We want something different. In other cases, advanced, for an advanced, a spotter group that's well organized, it may mean something different. It may mean getting into the details on some of the more meteorological concepts, and it's impossible for us to come up with one advanced training that suits everybody's needs. But we're hoping through polling you guys to see what you would like to hear in special training to put together one of those. And then we may continue to do some special topic webinars. We did some of this past year where we did a webinar on how to do damage surveys, or we did a webinar on maybe on radar technology or something like that. So we're hoping to do that. So you may see as many as 6 or more webinars from us from January through June this year, and hopefully we'll do one in the fall too. So we're going to keep doing this and do it more as we get into next year. We're also going to enhance our content on our YouTube channel, make that more widely available. Right now, what's on our YouTube channel is essentially what you would get in a webinar this past year. We're going to put actual videos on there. We're working on some content right now where we can't use video on a webinar, but we're going to put video on our YouTube channel where you can see the video that goes with the webinar. So there'll be a whole video segment on wall clouds and on scary looking clouds and on rotation and things like that. Also, we're open to your ideas. We are as in a lot of things, we're very, we're kind of out there and doing a lot of this stuff on the fly. So if you have ideas, suggestions of how to make things better, you guys participate in lots of different training out there, from live sessions to distance learning. So you may have seen ideas that work in other locations that we should try. One of the things that we talked about is using besides a webinar, using a video conferencing capability. Like I know some of the VOTECs around the state of Oklahoma, some of the health departments have a capability where they can do live video teleconferencing, and that would be more flexible. So we could do a statewide broadcast of something like that. We're talking in one of our districts in particular, where we may do almost a broadcast of a storm spotter training session. So actually do a live training session in the community, but broadcast that over the internet. Maybe we could use Ustream. Maybe we could do a Google Hangout. Maybe we could do Skype, something like that. We're open to anything and everything. So if we can get the spotter training to everybody that needs it in the most efficient way possible, whether it's online, webinars, video conferencing, whatever, we'll do it, or we'll explore the idea. So if you've got anything you want us to try, let's talk about it. We also want to increase the number of exercises that we're involved in your community. Just because we're not coming to Alva to do a storm spotter training session, that doesn't mean we don't want to come to Alva and interact in different ways. So maybe it'll be attending a tabletop exercise. Maybe it's participating in school tornado drills or participating in other activities. So we want to be in the community as much as we can, even though it's not just for spotter training. We are also open and looking for opportunities to do other local outreach. In FEMA's Advanced Professional Series, one of the elective courses in there is the Warning Coordination course. It's FEMA G272. This is a 1.5-day course that we come out and teach. We did this at least once in the past couple of years. I think we did it at Kingfisher. Maybe it was in 2011 that we did it. But this is a course that we can come out and teach. Now, we probably can't come out and teach this 20 times in a year, but if we can find locations where this will work and where we can interact with emergency managers and people who need this credit, then we can do this. And again, this is great information above and beyond the spotter training material that we would be limited to. We've also got a scaled down version of that course that we'd be very interested in coming to your community and presenting. This may be very basic material for an emergency manager, but this would be very good material for your fire departments, your LAPC, your hospital administrators, school administrators, anybody that's a decision maker that uses weather information in their daily jobs, and especially hazardous weather information. This is a 2-hour course that we can come out and present. Again, one of the benefits of not being limited to spotter training in our local outreach is this gives us more flexibility. It may be very difficult to get school administrators and hospital administrators to come and meet us somewhere at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night, but if we can come to them and come to you during a normal work day and present a course like this, I think that we'll get better reaction and response to that. And we're talking about doing this somewhere already early next year, where we're going to come and do this. We did this at Oklahoma State University this past year. We did it for an Indian tribe in north central Oklahoma, and we're looking for opportunities to do it again. So contact me if you're interested in learning more about this. I can send you an outline. But again, it's not necessarily for you as an emergency manager. It may be basic information for you, but I think it's great information to get out to those other partners that we work with. All right, that's all I've got to talk about, and I'm very interested if you have any questions, comments, anything that we didn't talk about, anything we didn't cover on the webinar today about last year's spotter training or what's coming up next year. Nothing at all. Well, that's either a very good sign or a very bad sign. So hope it's a very good sign. I hope I just kind of explained what we did, why we're doing it, the rationale behind some of it. Quite honestly, this is going to be a growing trend in the Weather Service. The budget concerns were not really the main reason that we started doing it this way, but that's becoming more of an issue throughout the Weather Service. Some travel is being limited. In some regions of the Weather Service, they are limited as to how much mileage, how many miles they can put on a government vehicle driving around and doing local outreach. We're not at that point yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see tighter and tighter budgets coming for the Weather Service. So it's just a fact of life that we're going to have to look at creative ways to do the same thing. And honestly, in my opinion, I think this is a good way, an efficient way to reach a lot more people. But we want to be sure that we're still coming out and getting out into the communities, and that's where some of these other courses come into play. So, well, if nobody has any questions, if someone from your district wants to step up and be the coordinator, or if you want to coordinate for your district, let me know. I will send that survey link to someone in the district so you can go ahead and get your dates online. The calendar is open right now. We've already had some districts submit their requests to me. As soon as I get requests from all 12 districts, we'll look at all the dates, mash it all together, and come up with a draft calendar that I'll share with everybody before we publish it. And then we're on the road. We'll be good to go with that. And then once I get the live training session scheduled, I'll go ahead and try to make a schedule for webinars and some of the other things that we want to do. So hopefully that'll work out. It's awful quiet. If you've got questions or comments or feedback or suggestions after we hang up the phone here, you know how to reach me on email. Just let me know. And again, we're open to any suggestions or any ideas that you might have. I did get one question in the chat here about dual pole radar webinars. We don't have anything planned at this time, but that may be something that we do. That may be one of those special topic webinars that we jump into, especially before, well, we may do it before too long, because actually one of the big benefits of dual pole radar is the winter precipitation, not just the, maybe even more so than the severe weather. So we may do that. That's a great question. Okay, well, if that's it, I'm going to let you go. And again, let me know if you have any questions, comments. We'll be looking for contacts from each region or each district, and then we'll get the calendar going here. So thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for your patience as we work through this new system, and hopefully it's working out for everyone. So you guys have a good holiday.